Hi, welcome to the Itihasa channel. We spoke about how the Pandava brothers and their mother Kunti escaped from the burning house of lack and traversed across the Ganga on a motorboat and came to the sweet, sleepy little town of Ekachakra. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Nagendraya Namaha, Om Amme Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Anjanaya Namaha, Om Kartikaya Namaha, Swami Sharanamayyappo, Om Guruve Namaha. So, guided by the great Veda Vyasa, the Pandavas and the mother Kunti came to stay in a little house owned by a brahmana who stayed with his family there. And this family of Kunti and her sons took up a room where they all stayed together. In the daytime, Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva would go around collecting alms from all the townsfolk, bringing back rice, lentils, and other raw materials back home, where Bhima and his mother Kunti would cook up delicious meals for all of them. And Kunti would divide the food into two halves. The one half would go to Bhima and the other half would be divided by the other Pandavas and their mother Kunti. And so the days passed. Bhima would make himself useful in the house, chopping up firewood for the Brahmana and his family and for themselves, doing a little hard labor around, and the other brothers would go around the town. In the evenings, they would range far and wide into the forests around and do a little hunting for themselves to keep themselves active. They would do a lot of physical activity through the night, exercise, yoga, and other forms to keep themselves fit, because they knew that eventually they would have to fight for their throne back, for their rightful place back in the Hastinapur palace. And they couldn't let their physical prowess be dimmed at all. And so one day, when the brothers had gone out to collect alms, Kunti and Bhima were sitting in the house, wondering what they should cook and how they should cook for the day, when suddenly the air was rent with cries and laments coming from the house of the Brahmana. And Kunti looked at Bhima and said, "Something seems to be the matter." And she told Bhima and said, "We need to check what it is that's bringing so much distress to this family. This family has taken us in without any regret, feeling happy for us, treating us like their own family. And yet, here we sit in calm, away from the prying eyes of Duryodhana's spies. And next, in the next room, this family seems to be in absolute distress, seems to be crying, and something seems to have taken over their life. A great man should always give back much more than he has been given. My prayers and blessings are always with this Brahmana and his family for having taken us in. And today we should see if there's any opportunity where we can be of more help to them, to alleviate their distress and to see to it that their life comes back to normal. Let me go and listen into what is happening so that I get an idea of what is happening, and maybe we can offer some help to them. They do not know who we really are, they've never asked us, and the great Veda Vyasa has told them that we are his friends and they have accorded us the respect that is due to Veda Vyasa. It is but time we repay this gratitude that they have given to us. And so saying, Kunti ran towards the door of the next room, like a cow running to her calf which has been in distress, trying to listen and see if she can do something for them. The Brahmana was lamenting and crying in distress. And if you go through the conversation in the Mahabharata that happens among the family members of this Brahmana, the father, the mother, the young daughter, and the infant son, it gives an insight into the life and times, the concept of dharma in those days, the concept of how to live, the concept of every family member's place in the family and in society. And it gives an idea of how people used to think in those days. And hearing the Brahmana lament, you could see the grief, you could hear the grief and piteousness in his voice as he cried. And we know about the recent idea of the stages of grief as described by Elizabeth Ross. And it says that grief has 5 stages, those 5 stages being denial, anger, uh, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. But in Bharat Varsha of those days, with the dharma that was prevalent then and the knowledge of the dharma that was prevalent then, the way of managing grief was quite different. The way we used to blame the different things around us, the people around us. This conversation gives a detailed insight into how they manage grief and how they look for solutions in times of distress. So, first, the father starts to talk, and he was lamenting, and he was tearful, and he was crying. And the first stage, he started blaming life in general. He cursed this worldly life which brings grief. He said that life begins in grief and ends in grief. And oh, what a life it is! It is pointless. It is like a hollow reed, worthless, having absolutely no mercy on us. And he described how this life was like a disease and how this life was absolute misery. And then, after blaming life, he started going spiritual. He started going into the spiritual mode. He spoke about the Atman and how the Atman was one. But they say that in the text that one should follow dharma and also artha and kama. And all these three will go towards finally finding moksha. And he said that in the pursuit of dharma, artha, and kama, which you start doing together, it leads to an unworldly level of grief, and it is not at all acceptable of how one tends to pursue these three in the service of the Atman. And there is nothing like moksha. Moksha is just a concept that is unattainable. And all we have in this life is misery. And then he starts. So, this is the second stage where, after the first stage where you blame life, in the second stage, you start to blame our gods and you start to blame the Atman. And then in the third stage, you start to blame the material things around you. And so, this Brahmana starts to talk about how we spend our life in the pursuit of wealth, and all that wealth will give is misery and grief. And he discusses how we start, once we start to acquire wealth, thinking that wealth will give us happiness, wealth will give us moksha. We realize that in the pursuit of wealth, we start to fear the loss of wealth. And how then we start to spend our time and our lives protecting this wealth and live in fear that one day this wealth will go away. And having blamed material pursuits, he then starts to blame his wife. And this is the next stage of grief where we blame our loved ones, the ones dearest to us, for the calamity that may befall us. And he looks at his wife and says, "You were born here and you grew up here. And when you came of age to marry me, you said you wanted to settle down here, for your ancestors lived here, and your father and mother lived here, and your forefathers lived here. So many times did I tell you, let us leave this place and go to a better place. Let us leave this place and go to a different place. But you refused to listen to me, saying that this is the place of your ancestors, and you forced me to stay here with you. Well, eventually your mother and father passed away and passed on, but yet you refused to move from this place for some weird attraction you had to this place, or some weird loyalty you had to this place. And look at this now, because of your decision, because of you, we have come into this situation which gives us misery and grief." And having blamed everyone around him, finally he accepted his stance. Looking at the tearful wife and the sorrow in her eyes, it brought compassion to his heart. And finally he settled down in complete acceptance, and peace came onto him. And then he remembered the good times he had with his wife, and he told her that you are a worthy wife for me, you are a beautiful lady. Our parents got us married in the customs of the day, and we followed every ritual in our marriage. And we have followed every ritual through. Every duty that I was supposed to take care of, I have done, and more than that, you have taken care of your duties. You have taken care of me as a wife should for a husband in every way. You've taken care of every need of mine. You have borne me two wonderful children, a son and a daughter, and you have taken care of them. You have brought them up with the most ideal dharma. You have kept all your vratas for our family, for our children, and for me. You have been a devout and chaste wife. You have been faithful to me. You have been everything to me. And today I realize that you are not at fault. For you cannot be blamed, you cannot be tainted. Such is the life you have given me. And I feel that it is time for me to go. We have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful son. There are shastras that say that the son is the favorite of the father, for he is the one who does the tarpan and pinda after the father passes away. And he is the one who takes care of the ancestors, the pitras. And so for me, it is rightful that my son is my favorite. But at the same time, there are shastras that say that the daughter is the favorite of the father, and that too is true is in our case, for my daughter is my favorite, and I can't bear to live without my daughter. And having loved both of them, it is but natural that none of you can be sacrificed, can take this sacrifice. For you, my wife, have been true to me, and my children are my favorite. And if any one of you were to go, I cannot live, and I would die, and I would perish in sorrow. And so it is but natural that I do the supreme sacrifice tomorrow, and I shall be the one who gives my life for this family. And so, saying, consoling himself, he reaches a moment of peace within himself. And Kunti is quite aghast at this discussion. Why would this brahmana have to give his life? What was in store for this family that this brahmana has to give his life the next day? And even more perturbed than what she was when she heard the laments, she now looks as the wife turns to her husband and speaks. The husband still sobbing, though controlled now. His wife much more in control, much more at peace. But tears streaming down her eyes, she moves closer to her husband and holds his hand and says, "You are a worthy brahmana. You're a well-educated man. You're a very well-learned man. You know the Vedas, its Shastras and everything, and you know that this life when we are born will one day have to end. Death will come to all of us, and there is no need for us to lament at this stage. You have been a wonderful husband to me. You have taken care of my every need. You've given me happiness, you've given me pleasure, you've given me luxury. You've given me these two beautiful children who have had the pleasure and the luxury of bringing up. I have had extreme pleasure at bringing up these children, watching them grow, seeing them transform from their wonderful play during infancy to our elder daughter being an upright girl, and this young son I know shall be an upright man. And through the years I have done my vratas, I have done my service to you, my dear husband, I've done my service to this family. I've done my service for my parents when they were alive and our relatives. And today I'm free of debt, and I have fulfilled all my debts to you. You too, my dear husband, have fulfilled your debts to me by being such a wonderful husband to me. You've taken care of me so well, and there is nothing that I have ever wanted in my life with you. It has been complete, pure satisfaction that I've lived my life. And so today it is but my duty to give my life and to see to it that you are safe. For what greater punya can a woman hope for than to sacrifice her life for her husband? Having completed all her worldly duties, it is but natural and it is but true that a woman should give up her life for the safety of her husband, for the life of her husband, and see to it that he stays on. For if I don't and I stay and you go away, my dear husband, I shall be a widow. And then evil, vile men shall come to our house and importune me, knowing that I am without a savior, without a husband. And like a discarded meat that the birds of prey will vie for, I shall be importuned by evil men all around. And there might come a time when I shall not be able to control my virtue, and I may have to give in for various hardships may befall us. And there might come a time when I might have to give in. And if that happens, what will happen to our daughter? For the daughter of a man who is respected and a woman who is respected will find a wonderful suitor. But if I go into a derogatory phase, what will happen to our daughter? What are the types of suitors that will come for our daughter? A daughter will not find a worthy man to marry. A daughter will not find an honorable man to marry. And her life shall be ruined, for her name shall be ruined after that. And a boy needs a father to teach him life, to teach him how to go through life. Our tender son, who is but an infant, needs a worthy father to teach him how a life should be led. And if such a worthy father is not around and he shall grow up to be different from his father, what shall the world say? There lies a family where there's a woman who has fallen into bad times and who's living with wild men. A daughter who is living in absolute misery, who has not married the honorable man she was supposed to marry, and this son has grown up so different from his father. And the grief shall come over me, and I shall give up my life. And if I shall give up my life out of shame for having two children who are so different from their father and not honorable like their father, these children too shall perish without their parents. And you, my dear husband, having given up your life, will eventually lead to the end of this entire family as we know it. And it is said that there is no greater honor for a woman that she dies before her husband. A woman should always understand that the ultimate punya comes from leaving her life before her husband does. She should die a married woman, not a widow. And it's quite possible that the Rakshasas also know that it is not right to kill a woman. It is not right to take the life of a woman. And it is quite possible that this Rakshasa shall spare my life just based on this. Even if he has an ounce of dharma in him, he might spare my life. And it is quite possible that I might come back alive tomorrow. So, my dear husband, allow me to go to the Rakshasa tomorrow. Allow me to go tomorrow. Allow me to sacrifice my life so that my family shall live. And here the wife gives the good news to the husband. He tells him, you, my husband, I will not mind it if you marry again. I will not mind it if you take another wife. Just ensure that this new wife you take will take care of our children just as I have, will take care of these beautiful souls and bring them up just as I would have wanted to. And so I know that if I were to stay behind, it's not right for a woman to take another husband, and that would be against our dharma. So it is just right. I sacrifice my life for you, my dear husband. Take care of these children, bring them up well. For you are the person who earns for this family. You are the breadwinner of the family. You will bring the food for this family. You will ensure that this family doesn't perish. And it is just right that I give my life. My life is done. I will be a happy woman to go before her husband does. And the punya that I shall attain by giving my life, sacrificing my life for you, will even benefit you, my dear husband. And hearing these words from his wife, the husband's face was aghast. He couldn't believe what he was hearing, and he broke down in terrible torments. Torrential tears flowed down from his eyes as he held on to his wife, unable to leave his wife for the sacrifice she was threatening to take. And seeing this complete abject sorrow in their parents' faces, the daughter broke down. And she suddenly decided on something, and she poised herself, wiped out her tears, had a smile on her face, looked at her father and mother and said, do you know the meaning of the putra in Sanskrit? The child, the putra? Putra means savior. The putra is a savior who will take you across the other realms by doing the correct tarpana and pinda for you after you go away, and doing the tarpana and pinda for the ancestors and the pitras, so that the child is the savior of the soul of the parents and the ancestors. And today I am your putra and I shall be your savior. I shall ford you across to safety. Allow me to take you across this terrible time that befalls us. Let me sacrifice my life for you. I shall be the one who goes to the Rakshasa tomorrow, and I shall be the one who will sacrifice my life so that my parents live. For if my father perishes, my mother and my brother, my tender young brother, will not survive. And within a short time, both will perish too. And without parents, I shall be an orphan, and I shall not be able to lead my life. For who shall take care of me? And as my mother says, I shall have not be able to marry a worthy man. My life shall anyway be ruined. For if my mother dies, my father will definitely be heartbroken. And how will I live without my mother's love? How will this tender young child who is but an infant live without his mother's love? And he too shall perish, and in this sorrow, both of us shall perish. And it is but obvious that if either my father or my mother dies tomorrow, this entire family will be in ruin. The daughter, it is said, will eventually have to be given away to her husband, so the daughter will eventually be given away from the house. Consider that the daughter that I am being given off tomorrow, I may not live after tomorrow, but eventually in this family, I would anyway not live once I am married. I'll be living in another house. Think I have gone to another place to live. Assume that I'm no longer in this house, but I'm in some place better. A place better, as I would have saved the souls and the life of my father and mother and son. And if my younger brother stays alive, he will eventually be able to do the Tarpan and Pinda for the souls of our Pitras and for your souls, and your souls shall reach absolution. And so saying, the daughter tearfully hugged her parents and said, allow me to go tomorrow. For in my sacrifice alone will 3 lives be saved. For if either one of you go, that the lives that perish will be far more than just one. Only if I give my life tomorrow shall all 3 of you survive, and survive wonderfully. My mother is still young. You can still have more children, my dear father. And you can have more children who will take care of you and who will be your solace in your troubled times. Allow me to go tomorrow. And seeing this family in complete distress, seeing the father break down on hearing his daughter's words, and the mother collapsing to the floor, hearing the daughter's words, saying she wanted to sacrifice her life, this young son burst into tears and then wiped his tears off. Taking a reed which was lying on the side, he picked up the reed, the floppy little reed, and started to pretend like he's a warrior brandishing a sword. And then he told his mother and father and sister, consoled each of them, went to each of them, hugged them, wiped their tears off, and said, worry not, my father, worry not, my mother, worry not, my sister. For I am here a warrior, and I shall go tomorrow, and I shall slay that rakshasa and come back. And none of you shall have to bear that Rakshasa's evil intentions evermore. Allow me to go, and I shall slay the Rakshasa and come back tomorrow. And then he started running around the room like he was on a horse, brandishing that little floppy reed, pretending it was a sword, and demonstrating to his family of how he would fight that Asura down. And seeing his antics, finally some laughter prevailed in the family, and the family burst out in laughter, wiping away their tears. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Nagendraya Namaha, Om Amme Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Swamiye Sharanamayapo, Om Anjanaya Namaha, Om Kartikaya Namaha, Om Guruve Namaha.